Hi, I'm Kelly at Book and Paper Arts, and I do have a part 2 What's New in the Studio video coming soon. But today I felt like making stuff. So I'm going to talk about some of my favorite inexpensive and or free art supplies. These are things that are not necessarily art supplies per se. They're things I've found in the wild that you can use, everyday items that you can use to be more creative. They are cheap, easy to find. They are a way of being resourceful, cutting down on waste, and best of all, making more stuff. And who doesn't like all of those? So please join me. If you like journal arts, mixed media, altered books, and vintage books, paper, and other ephemera, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and be sure and turn on the notifications. And you will have more of them in your life. Let's go look at the good stuff. You will not be surprised to hear that one of my favorite all-time off-the-beaten-track art supplies is a page from an old book. Just some printed text. Now, you can use it to start the background of a journal page, an art journal page. There, we got that guy, and we are off and running. Hi. This is my art journal. Almost every single page started with some laying down just a plain old book page, some text, and working into and around that. You can rough tear it and make some little ribbony sizes and then turn that into a border, maybe even in another book. So now you've got contrasting text and font sizes. So even though it's super simple, you're getting some contrast, some layers, and you got a perch for that guy. So that makes a nice element. Or you can take this big old piece here and maybe rough tear it on a diagonal. And now you have a different kind of an element. You could anchor the page there or there. Again, let's look at maybe altering this book. And what you have again is that contrasting text and font size that's just going to give you a lot of interest and kind of dictate where your pieces go and how your page comes together. Then, if you like die cuts, I don't use this a whole lot, but I do like a paper butterfly. And so make a pile of these guys, and that would be a very fun and pretty embellishment to a page. If you don't have a die cut thingy, you could just cut out some circles, squares, triangles, other geometric shapes, and use those for embellishing. So do not neglect the humble piece of book page as an art supply. Next up, old rags. Okay, maybe not rags, just some old cloth. I am a very, very frugal person. I like nice things, but I tend to buy them secondhand and then wear them or use them until they fall to bits, which is what happened with these bed linens. It's really nice cotton, and I'm not kidding when I say I used these for 12 years, by which time they were threadbare in places and I just couldn't mend it. But I couldn't throw it away either. It seemed super wasteful and strangely disloyal. So I gave it a good launder. Then cut it or tore it into pieces and did a lot of stuff with it. I'm in the process of doing a lot of stuff with it. It's going to last me forever. I printed up some pieces for an altered board book that I'm making. And I am working on an altered board book online class. And these will be in it. It's coming soon. To print on fabric, that fabric has to be very thin indeed, which is what this is. And if you like this technique, I will be doing a short video soon for here on YouTube about how to print on cloth. But if that's not your thing, there's other ways that you could really turn old cloth that can't be used anymore into something else. I had a blast rough tearing this into ribbons, which I then, let's see, I made some wide ribbon here, and then I tea-dyed it. And now I can use this to wrap a parcel or maybe make a wrap for an altered book. Something kind of shabby chic, but pretty, different. I tore some thinner pieces and I dyed these with onion skins. And again, I can wrap a parcel with these, or I can integrate them into some mixed media or an art journal. Here's a really, 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 really thin one. I have also done the same with, you know what? This was a dress shirt. It was Ralph Lauren. I got it at a flea market and wore it and wore it and wore it until one day I just could not mend it anymore. So I took it apart and saved the buttons for another project and then started ripping it into beautiful rough ribbons. And again, I could use this for a parcel or maybe as an element to a book. If you like to make wrappers for your junk journals or art journals, I know I do. And again, I feel like I'm being loyal to this old friend by giving it some new life. So be frugal and use that old fabric that I'm pretty sure you have a box of somewhere, and make stuff. A moment ago, I said that I had dyed some old cloth using onion skin dye. I only discovered onion skins as an art supply a couple of years ago, and ever since I have been obsessed. That's right, with onion skins. One of my favorite ways to use them is to make art journal pages. I tear out my pages for the art journal, made a signature here, and then throughout I've just inserted red and yellow onion skins. Then I soak it in a mordant. I use alum. Steam like crazy. And this is the result. Now I'm going to bind this together into a book, and it's going to be a great present for myself, but it would also be a good present for somebody else. It costs almost nothing, and it's one of a kind. You will have made it, and it would make a special gift. You can also, you don't have to make it into a journal. You could take one of the Echo prints and turn it into the cover If you want to use some blank pages or tea-dyed pages, you could just make this the cover. Or you could use it for card making or a ton of mixed media ideas. As I said, it is not difficult. It is not expensive. All you need are onion skins, paper, a mordant, steam, and patience. But if you would like more detailed instructions, I do have an online class about how to make an art journal from onion skins. And I have linked to that in the text box below this video. So if you'd like to make your own pages, please check that out. Another way to use onion skins, they're free, people, is to make ink. I love ink, and I have a lot of it. I have a lot of store-bought ink, but lately I have been learning the joys of making my own inks, my own botanical inks from plants. One of my favorites is this onion skin ink. I made this using yellow onion skins. And again, the instructions are in that online course, but basically, you just want to take 2 or 3 cups of onion skins and cover them with a cup of water and a pinch of baking soda, a pinch of baking soda, and then boil it all down for about 45 minutes and then strain again. And then you will have this beautiful coppery terracotta color that you can use for painting or just mark making. And please let me know if you have any questions about that. But that's what you can do with onion skins. And here is one more way to use those onion skins. Did I mention that I'm obsessed? You can make them into echo prints. The instructions for this are not in the online class. So if you would like to learn how to make these echo prints, I have a free tutorial on my website. Now, the tutorial on my website talks about how to make echo prints using autumn leaves. So if you want to know how to make these, go have a look at that tutorial. There's a link to it in the text box. And where it says autumn leaves, just substitute red and yellow onion skins like this. And you will be off and away making these gorgeous, inexpensive, one-of-a-kind echo prints. On a more conventional note, let's talk about another one of my favorite inexpensive art supplies, and those are children's brushes from the children's section of the big box store. I use these every darn day of my life. Now, if I am painting with ink or watercolor, I am using an art brush. But if I am making an altered book or an art journal, and let's say I'm adding an element with some gel medium or a PVA craft glue, or maybe I'm using gesso, I do not want to be using a $15 brush. Instead, I went to my local big box store. It's called Wilco's here, and you can get just a little bit of everything. Next to the office supplies section, there's a kids' craft section where they have little baby pom-poms and glitter and poster paint and a packet of brushes. These are some of the ones that are in there. It has about 12 or more brushes. And it cost about £4, so that's about $6-ish. But you get a lot of them, And I bought this packet 2 years ago, and they are going strong. You get the sponge brushes. Okay, these are not very robust, I have to admit. But you could use them as a blending tool or maybe for some lighter gluing work. These are good for glue and gesso. They're plastic. They're very formidable. A little dauber if you wanted to do some stenciling. And then different sizes for gluing and whatnot. So you may not have a Wilco's, but have a look if you've got a big supermarket or a place that you like to shop. Check out the kids section. You might find some very affordable brushes and that you can use in the crafty part of your page making. And who knows what else you're going to find there. Speaking of, sort of, always keep your eyes peeled when you are in your favorite discount store. In America, that might be Dollar Tree or Family General. I think that's a thing. Here in Britain, we have Poundland, which is what it sounds like. And, I found these. These are twigs that are pretty much a universal size, and I got 100 of them in the gardening section. And I needed some stems for paper roses because I wanted to make a lot of them for a job. And then I just saw these. I think they're like little stakes. I'm not sure. But they were cheap, they were pretty, and there were a lot of them. But they weren't in the fancy art supply store. They were in the gardening section of Poundland. So keep your eyes open for things that can become other things. Like this thing. Also Poundland. And I think this was in the housewares in the kitchen section. And I think that it was huge. It was just like 2 by 2. And I think it was a splatter guard for cooking over a skillet. And you were just meant to put the whole thing over your skillet. Whew. So I bought one, and I cut it into lots of different size pieces. And then I just experimented with it. And so I'm taking one of my kids' brushes, and I'm putting a big gloppy gloop of acrylic paint. And now I'm just going to put some pressure there. And now I have some really cool mark making. And I have done this where I've added another color and just gone over the same print so you get some contrast and texture. And I use this all the time for embellishing art journal pages. It's a little messy, but really fun and really evocative. And, I made about 8 out of these from these splatter guards. It cost £1. So keep your eyes open and imagine if you see something and it looks like you could turn it into something, turn it into something. Finally, let's talk about paper napkins. Recently, I did a process video here on YouTube where I used paper napkins in a project, and I said something like, one of the reasons that I really love these as a cheap art supply is that they are inexpensive and you can find them everywhere. Well, one of the comments that I got was, in that video, was in all caps, "What are you talking about? I can never find paper napkins. The only place I've ever seen them is on Etsy, and they're really expensive." Well, one thing I've learned from teaching is that if one person says it out loud, other people are thinking it. So, here's where you can find paper napkins to use in your art projects. First, check out your supermarket, your grocery store, especially if it's a big one. You want to check out the birthday party section. The party section. It's where you're going to find paper tablecloths, wrapping supplies, maybe candles, and that sort of thing. You are almost certainly going to find paper napkins. They're usually seasonal. They change. I got these in like March for springtime, so it has bunnies and lambs and all kinds of springtimey things. And I recently got these for summer, some flowers. So check out the party section. It could also be near the picnic section, which is often barbecue adjacent. Don't forget to check out, again, office supply stores. Craft stores will have these. And also, if you have any cheap card shops near you, we have a ton of them here in Swansea, and they have tissue paper and wrapping supplies and gift bags and paper napkins. Also, did I say big box store? Don't forget that. Any place that's going to have a birthday party or a party picnic section. They should be very inexpensive. I think these were a pack of 20 of these were $3-ish, £2.75. And these were like €1.50, so like $1.50 for a big batch of those. And you can see that I have used them. This is a paper napkin that I used in making the cover of this board book. And when glued down, it just went translucent. The clear white parts went translucent so you can see the text underneath. See what I did? Using the humble printed book page as an art supply with the humble paper napkin, and you get something beautiful. Here is another altered board book, and I used these roses to make the background here, and then I built over it and added layers. But it made a nice foundation. If you are going to use your napkins, the first thing that you want to do is peel away the layers, because most of them are going to have a white background and actually several layers, might even be 2 or 3 layers there of white papers. You just keep peeling and peeling your white papers away until what you have is very, very thin piece to work with here. I've done the same thing here, and I actually, to get those layers to start to separate, I made a little bit of a tear here. I just tore it and tried to get it a little bit messy so the layers would start to separate at the corner. And I have one layer of white paper and another layer that I had to get off before. So there were 2 layers to get off before I found this super thin, delicate piece that I can work with now. It's very important that you add your glue to your substrate. Do not even think about adding your glue to this delicate piece of paper. It will end in tears, to say nothing of a gloppy mess. So now that I have the glue on my book here, I'm just going to gently push that into place. It's not unusual to have a little bit of wrinkling, but that's okay. It's a look. Adds a little texture. And now you can see how pretty that is. If you're going to be using the humble printed book page, that text is going to show from underneath, adding some contrast with the prettiness of the flowers. And again, giving you a nice strong background to start with. I hope this has given you some ideas. I could do 2 or 3 more of these videos of inexpensive found art supplies, and I probably will. But you know what would be even better is if you would go to the comments and let us all know what some of your favorite, maybe off the beaten path, inexpensive art supplies are. And then we'll all be a little smarter and a little bit more creative. Please check out the text below this video to find out more about what's happening here at Book and Paper Arts. And until later, happy making.